Welcome ladies and gentlemen to another World of Warcraft video. Today I'll be going on to the Demonology Warlock, which is frankly just so fucking amazing right now. It is honestly one of the best specs I've ever played, like in Legion so far, and the Legion pre-patch. It's amazing. So if you don't know, the Legion pre-patch did hit. It's common knowledge by now. Everybody knows that. But it did hit, and it brought some massive class changes, including to many different classes like Death Knights, Warlocks, Mages, and all that kind of class. Every single class pretty much. Some of them had really good changes and some of them had some bad changes. I wouldn't say any class has gotten bad, necessarily shit. I would just say they've either gotten one more simplified, or they're just a little bit more boring. I wouldn't necessarily say there's any class that I've played at least that has gotten proper shit. So, that's that. But in my last video, unfortunately, I was touching on the Frost Mage, which has been extremely streamlined and is very slow and very boring now. And if you didn't know that, Frost Mage and Fire Mage were my favorite specs in Warlords of Draenor, but they've just been simplified to the point where it's just not enjoyable anymore. In general, honestly, it's not that fun to play. It's still good, but it's just not that fun. But right now, I want to go on to the Demonology Warlock. Now, how is the Demonology Warlock? Is it fun? Is it good? How does it play? Guys, listen. By far, one of my most favorite specs in this game is the Demonology Warlock. It is by far. I have as much enjoyment in playing it as I do with the Frost and Unholy DK, which if you don't know are fucking amazing. I have so much fun playing it. The reason why I like this spec better than Frost and Unholy is I like the class fantasy a little bit more. I like its visuals and all that crap. Sometimes, even though it is pretty difficult to see your swarms of minions and swarms of like different demons, it's hilarious sometimes with multiple Demonology Warlocks. It literally gets so crowded. The amount of imps and demons there are gets ridiculous. It just gets silly, and it gets so fun and so funny. It's a blast. It really is a blast. Actually, I have in my last video in the Frost Mage Legion pre-patch, there was a bunch of Demonology Warlocks, like 3, and they all had their imps scattered around, and they all were doing damage, and the amount of imps and like demons there were was just plain silly. But it is a blast. It is a massive blast. I really want to touch on one thing. If you look at my transmog, you might find it weird. I actually spent a decent amount of time doing this. It was actually pretty difficult to get this transmog, because I spent what I wanted to do was make one half like green, one half purple. I think I did pretty well on that. Even if you look at my weapon, the tip of it is green, but the majority of it is like purple. And even my shoulders, the green glow but purple, same as my head. So I'm pretty proud of it. I actually think it works pretty well. I don't know, maybe you guys might not like it. I personally do really like it. I think it looks pretty barbaric, so that's why I like it. Quickly wanted to say that. So how is the Demonology Warlock? What have they changed? Well, if you didn't know, they changed the class fantasy completely. It's now, rather than becoming a demon, because that contradicts the idea of a demon hunter, it's now about summoning herds of fucking demons. So it is a blast. It is so fun, so visually impressive. It's just so fun. It's such a blast to play. And the AoE potential, the damage it does is ridiculously good. Frankly, it does better AoE, but it's still fun as fuck. So yeah, let's get right into it, boys. Okay, so with talents, I quickly want to brush over this because not massive amount has changed. A decent amount has changed actually with the Demonology Warlock, but Warlocks as a whole haven't changed too much. Demonology Warlock, of course, has got a revamp completely, so there's a decent amount of changes. One thing you may notice is there's not much abilities. There really isn't much abilities, but that's not a bad thing because the setup. If you didn't know, Legion came with an ability prune, the pre-patch, and that means basically they shortened the amount of abilities, but they made it so that each ability has a lot more depth. So you basically took out the unnecessary spells that really weren't needed, really were useless basically, and just damage fillers, if you get my meaning. that was a very good thing when it comes to the Demonology Warlock, because it takes a lot more, skill to play it now. It doesn't take necessarily skill, but it's a lot more enjoyable. There's a lot more setup to go behind it, and it's just really, really fun. It's very enjoyable. I can't get over this, man. It's just so fun. So yeah, let's get right into it. Now for the first tier, you've got Shadowy Inspiration. Demonic Empowerment also causes your next Shadow Bolt to be instant. Okay, so actually I just realized it may be a better idea to touch on my spells before I go into the specs, talents and all that. Now, of course, you got your Shadow Bolt, your main Shadow Bolt. It's your filler Shadow Bolt. Generates your 1 Soul Shard. It's a guaranteed generation for your Soul Shard. Putting that out there. And yes, they have changed the shards. They changed it to Soul Shards. I forgot what it was called. For Destruction, I know it was Embers. But now all Warlocks get the same thing, which is Soul Shards. So it generates 1 Soul Shard. And then you got Hand of Gul'dan, which you can spend from 1 to 4 Soul Shards. The more Soul Shards you spend on it, the more imps it spawns. So basically, it just deals damage, and it will summon 4 imps based on how many Soul Shards you actually use. So if you used 1, it will summon 1 imp. If you use 2, summon 2 imps, etc., etc. And the max you could use is 4 Soul Shards. Next is Demon Wrath, which basically all your demons will then do some AoE damage, like crackle. Visually, it's really nice, very impressive, and it takes up most of the screen, which is pretty funny. But it basically just does a shit. This is your AoE filler, basically. Instead of using your Shadow Bolt, you would use this in an AoE situation, your Demon Wrath, and it's channeled. This is obviously Fellstorm. This is your demonic command demon, which basically does your demon's abilities. So it will change on different demons used. You would always want to use your Felguard. Just putting that out there. Always use your Felguard, because this just adds to the DPS AoE. This just adds to the AoE, so it's very helpful. And we have also got Doom, which is a tick damage, which basically does a certain amount of damage after 18 seconds. So it does 25,000 damage after 18 seconds. Now I quickly want to put this out there. I am not the best geared at all. I'm 651. That is shit, considering that it's already the Legion pre-patch. This was the class that I actually used as a boost when I pre-purchased Legion, and I wasn't that happy with it because, I don't know, Destruction Warlock just didn't appeal to me. It looked really cool in videos and all that, but as I played it, it just got kind of boring. PvE, certainly, it got very boring. However, in PvP, I guess it was a little bit of fun. But I just wasn't really that interested in it. So I decided to just not play it that much, not try to level its gear that much. But I decided, now that they have changed the Demonology Warlock, and they changed Affliction and Destruction for the better, I'm having a blast. So I'm probably going to main this class. So continuing, we've got Unending Resolve. It's your mitigation. Hardens your skin, reducing all damage you take by 40% and granting immunity to interrupt and silence effects for 8 seconds. So it's basically your mitigation, so that's good. You got Burning Rush, increases your movement speed by 50%. We all know what the Burning Rush is. Basically, you run faster, but it deals damage to your health. So yeah, you've got Drain Life, which Drain Life is now in. Basically, yeah, it just drains their life. We all know what Drain Life is. You got Summon your Doomguard, and you got Summon Infernal. So you still have those two spells. So Summon Doomguard and Summon Infernal are still there. Of course, Summon Infernal. And now you've got Gold Dreadstalkers, which calls 2 Ferocious Dreadstalkers to attack the target for 12 seconds. Quickly want to put out there, your imps also last for 12 seconds. So you can see how this correlates. Your demons will usually will have a burst last for like 12 seconds. So you need to time that well. And you got Demonic Empowerment, which is something you always want to do, because your Demonic Empowerment basically makes your demons much more stronger. And it doesn't say on the actual information for this spell, but it actually not only does it increase their haste for 50%, again for 12 seconds. So again, you can see how this correlates, but it also actually increases their damage by 32%. if you want to say that. So yeah, it actually increases their damage, increases their haste, and just does so much. So demonic empowerment is your most important thing. You always want to do this when you summon your Dreadstalkers and your imps, because they're basically much more weaker. They are much more weaker without your demonic empowerment. And of course, you've got all this, your other stuff. You got life tap, so your health still now plays in as a resource. So mana is still a thing, and you will run out of mana, and you will need to use life tap. Personally, I don't think that's really good. I don't really enjoy the fact that it just basically slows down the spec. There's a point where you have to stop and actually use your life tap, which is kind of annoying. And you got your health funnel, sacrifice 24% of your maximum health to heal your summoned demon for twice as much for 5.6 seconds. Again, you know, create Healthstone, and we also got some Dark Layer, which is something I want to go into later. And you got Shadow Fury and all that stuff. So everything is basically there other than your main damage dealers. Your utility is basically still there. So going on to the tier 1 talents, you got Shadow Inspiration. Demonic Empowerment also causes your next Shadow Bolt to be instant. So when you use Demonic Empowerment, it causes your next Shadow Bolt to be instant. So it procs your Shadow Bolt, which is nice. Which is good. It makes the spec a little bit more faster. Shadow Flame lobs a ball of Shadow Flame at the target, dealing 4,000 Shadow Flame damage immediately, and another 7,000 Shadow Flame damage over 8 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. So this is another damage dealer. You just use this and it's another damage dealer. I wouldn't go for this because it generates 1 soul shard, and the problem with that is it would kind of thwart the my general rotation and the general rotation of the actual Demonology Warlock, because you want as much soul shards as you can get to work the rotation round, to make it deal as much burst damage as possible. And you have Demonic Calling. Shadow Bolt has a 20% chance, and Demon Wrath has a 5% chance on each target to make your next call Dreadstalker cost no soul shards, which is so helpful. It's so helpful. It makes the spec so much more easier to play. It's such a helpful. So this whole tier is basically useful. This whole tier is useful. However, I would go for Demonic Calling. But, and this is a big but, one of the talents that your artifact weapon has, which is, I don't have my artifact weapon because this is the pre-patch, so you don't get your artifact weapon. But this is something I noticed, that one of your artifact weapon traits literally just replaces this. It literally is, your Shadow Bolt has a 20% chance, and it makes it so that Dreadstalkers, cold Dreadstalkers, just cost no shards. So it's kind of useless. This becomes kind of useless. I don't know how they're gonna work it, but that artifact trait makes Demonic Calling pretty useless. It makes it entirely useless, actually. So I don't know why. I don't know how they're gonna make that work. Tier 2, you have Impending Doom. Doom also summons 1 Wild Imp when it deals damage. That's very helpful for AoE, doing a load of AoE. Got Improved Dreadstalkers. Cold Dreadstalkers now also summons 2 Wild Imps. And it's really cool because it's not what you think. It just does. It summons just 2 imps next to the Dreadstalkers. It actually summons them riding the Dreadstalkers, which is pretty cool. So that's pretty cool. You got Implosion. Demonic Forces suck all of your wild imps towards the target, and then causes them to violently explode, dealing 9,000 Shadow Flame damage to all enemies within 8 yards. This can do a shit ton of damage. If planned right, and a lot of AoE damage too. A lot of people would actually usually go for this rather than Improved Dreadstalkers, but I find Improved Dreadstalkers easier to work with. However, a lot of people would usually go for this. Tier 3, you have Demon Skin. Your Soul Leech Absorption now passively recharges at a rate of 1% of maximum health every 1 second, and that may now absorb up to 20% of maximum health. You got Mortal Coil. Horrifies an enemy target into fleeing, incapacitating them for 3 seconds and healing you for 11% of maximum health. And you got Shadow Fury, which stuns all enemies within 8 yards for 4 seconds. So this isn't really that relevant to the actual spec. It's just, you know, stuns and all that crap. So tier 3 isn't that helpful. Tier 4, Hand of Gul'dan now also applies Doom to all enemies it hits. Now this can be planned perfectly. So say you go for this and you go for Impending Doom, your Doom will be like completely spread, and when it deals damage, you'll have so many wild imps. So you can see how they can work together which is really, really smartly done. The talent tree is very smartly done, putting it out there. It's very, very smartly done, so kudos to Blizzard for that. So you can see how it works, kind of. But I went for improved Dreadstalkers again because I don't really like impending doom all that much. Got Power Trip. Demonic Empowerment has a 50% chance to generate 1 soul shard when used in combat. Not very, exciting, but I guess it's a good thing because you want as much soul shards as possible. However, you will be generating a shit ton of soul shards anyway, so that's also something you need to bear in mind. Soul Harvest increases your damage, and this is now a talent actually. Increases your damage and your pet's damage by 20%. Lasts 10 seconds. Increased by 2 seconds for each target afflicted by your doom, up to a maximum of 30 seconds. So that's pretty interesting, the way it works with doom, which is very interesting. But again, this isn't something I would go for because Hand of Doom is just so helpful. That's why I would go for Hand of Doom. For tier 5, your first spell you want to go there is Demonic Circle. Summons Demonic Circle. This is everything we've seen before. We've all seen this before. Basically summons Demonic Circle for 6 minutes, allowing you to cast it again and teleport to its location. This again used to be the utility. Now it's something that it's something that's actually like a talent. So you need to keep that in mind. Same as Burning Rush. Increases your movement speed. We've seen this. In Dark Pact, sacrifices 20% of your demon's health to shield you for 400% of your health. 100% of the sacrificed health for 20 seconds. So that's also quite helpful. That's basically we've all seen this before. This used to be a tier, so not really relevant. Tier 6, Grimoire of Supremacy. You are able to maintain greater control of your abilities, so it basically makes your summon Doom Guard and Infernal permanent, and it replaces your actual permanent demon. Grimoire of Service makes it so that you can summon another demon for a certain amount of time, 25 seconds, and deals a 100% increased damage, and it's on a 1.5 minute cooldown. This is cool because the amount of demons you can summon, so that's actually pretty helpful sometimes. But everybody goes for Grimoire of Synergy. Basically, damage done by you or your demon has a chance to grant the other one 40% increased damage for 15 seconds, which is so helpful. It's something that's always ongoing, so it doesn't need to take up much of you. You don't need to keep track on it that much. But it's really helpful and cool. And now for your most important tier, in my opinion, is your tier 7. Summon Darklair. It summons this really derpy looking motherfucker demon. Really stupid looking demon. I wish they changed the look of it. It looks so stupid. For 12 seconds, again, you can see how it works. 12 seconds, 12 seconds, 12 seconds. All your demons last 12 seconds, and your demonic empowerment lasts 12 seconds. And it launches eye lasers to all targets afflicted by your doom, dealing 4,000 shadow damage. This can work so well with Hand of Doom. Because if you're in an AoE situation, you call down your Hand of Gul'dan, and it spreads all that doom. You summon your Dark Lair. Your Dark Lair will do fuck tons of damage, just to all of them. And the amount of damage you will deal is ridiculous. So that's also something. That's why it's so smartly made, in my opinion. Got Demon Bolt, replaces your Shadow Bolt, draws energy from your demon. It basically is a more interesting Shadow Bolt. So the more demons you have, the more damage it will do. So that's very interesting, actually, in itself. So it works with your demons, more or less. It makes your Shadow Bolt a lot more interesting, and it's more for single target rotations, while your Summon Dark Layers for AoE damage. Soul Conduit, every soul shard you spend has a 20% chance to be refunded. This is not very interesting. This is very uninteresting, actually. So now let's get to the beef of it, the rotation. Now, honestly, the Demonology Warlock has some insane AoE damage potential, like proper insane AoE damage potential, and I'll show you how. So just think about it. You spread your dooms with your Hand of Gul'dan. You build up so that you can, get your Cold Dreadstalkers and your Hand of Gul'dan, whilst at the same time getting a proc on your Cold Dreadstalkers so that your Dreadstalkers don't cost anything. And you need to think about that. So if your Dreadstalkers don't cost anything, you can use your Hand of Gul'dan for 4 shards, which will leave you 1 more shard, and then you could use your Summon Dark Lair with that last shard. So this can work very well So let me show you. So you use your shadow bolt. Let me just reset my damage. You use your shadow bolt, build up to like five soul shards, and with that you usually get a Cold Dreadstalker's proc, because I mean it's a 20% chance. And you called your Dreadstalkers, you put your Hand of Gul'dan, you summon your Dark Glare, you demonically empower them, you use your Demon Wrath, and then you use your Fellstorm, and look at the AoE. The AoE, the amount of AoE you can do with this is just insane. It's so fucking amazing. It's so insane. And now, at this point, usually your Cold Dreadstalkers would proc again, but I don't know why it didn't. It actually didn't proc that time. And then you can continue with that. So you use your Cold Dreadstalkers, and then you put down your Hand of Gul'dan, and then you use your Demonic Empowerment. Your Summon Dark Glare would usually be, if you're doing it as fluid as possible, it would be on cooldown at this point, and you don't want to stall it any longer. So you build that 5 soul shards again. You use your Cold Dreadstalkers, you use your Hand of Gul'dan, and you use your Summon Dark Glare, and then you demonically empower them. You use your AoE Demon Wrath, and then you use your Fellstorm. You can see the damage you do, and you can just continuously do this. The damage is ridiculous. The AoE potential is fucking amazing. It's so good. And you can think about that. Imagine if you took Impending Doom instead. If you took Implosion instead. You use Implosion from time to time. Whilst in this AoE position, you can deal a ton of damage. So you can tell how that works, together. But for a single target, you would go for Demon Bolt, which makes it a lot more simpler in my opinion. But it looks really cool, by the way. I just want to put that out there. Demon Bolt looks fucking cool. You summon your Cold Dreadstalkers, and now you basically have 2 summoning spells. And you use your Demonic Empowerment, and then your Demon Bolt, which will do a pretty cool animation. Usually it would do a pretty cool animation. I don't know why it's not doing it this time. But you can see it just does more damage than your Shadow Bolt, because the more demons you have active, the more damage it does. So it's very simple. But at the same time, it's so interesting and fun. So really, really smart. I just want to say, you always have to demonically empower, by the way, because obviously if you don't, and you can see that you will run out of mana like I just did there. So yeah, it's very interesting. It's simple but interesting. So you just build up to 5 shards, you use your Cold Dreadstalkers, then you use your Hand of Gul'dan. If it procs, that's better. And in an AoE situation, you use your Summon Dark Glare, because your Hand of Gul'dan will spread your dooms. And then you use your Demon Wrath. Fuck off. You use your Demon Wrath, and you use the Fellstorm. So it will just do a shit ton of AoE. It's so perfect. It really just works so well together. And the amount of genius that went behind the spec is just amazing. Kudos to you, Blizzard. Kudos to you. This spec is fucking great. So yeah, that's really it. Anyway, see you guys in the next video.